Some things change, some things don't. We're now right in the big holiday season for gaming, with November jam-packed with new releases. Still though, some of that excitement has been to an extent negated by the typical greed and incompetence of this AAA games industry. You have Facebook becoming the latest billion-dollar corporation to enter gaming with a streaming service because why not? 2K Games trying to get away with adding unskippable advertisements in NBA 2K21 only a month after release, and then playing victim when they were called out for their BS. I sincerely believe 2K Games is one of the dirtiest publishers of this entire industry. Totally coincidental that these mistakes always financially benefit them, just a bit odd. And yes, I say that sarcastically. Ubisoft continues to deliver mediocre Ubisoft games, which is actually disappointing because for the last decade I've been watching this publisher reveal interesting and compelling marketing material for games, even buying me into the premise a few times, but every single time I just feel let down. For a company of over 14,000 developers, it would be nice if they produced something special at least every once in a while, and also, treated their workers properly. But also right now we have more derivative, cash grab mobile games shutting down, failed live services attempting to make a comeback, although the big question with BioWare's Anthem is how EA monetizes the relaunch of their disastrous, lazy experiment which forced them back to the drawing board. Call of Duty's massive file sizes are only growing. Optimization does not seem to be a thing that Activision is interested in solving, as this is poised to be an ongoing issue entering next gen and with their upcoming title Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. But the big industry news as of late has been lots of big delays continuing to strike. Most recently Far Cry 6, but most significantly with Cyberpunk 2077, which has in turn delayed a lot of other games. Today though, we have some big topics to break down, as we're actually going to dive deeper into the fallout from CD Projekt Red's controversial decision to delay Cyberpunk 2077 for a third time because they are being hit financially badly. Also, Bethesda's crazy last few weeks continues, as Xbox head Phil Spencer and BGS game director Todd Howard discussed the future, and additionally Bethesda is being sued for $100 million over some corporate shenanigans that they allegedly pulled to protect the Elder Scrolls brand. EA is being sued again over loot boxes and just got sucker punched by the Dutch government. Marvel's Avengers continues to look like Anthem 2.0 with terrible decision making, and the chaotic development of Halo Infinite keeps on giving. So as usual, a packed video, but if you do go on to enjoy, consider liking the video and subscribing, and also turning notifications on so you do not miss out on any new content. But without wasting any more time, let's very briefly talk about this dope's remarks. I really don't want to give this story much more attention, but a creative director of Stadia, the platform trying to gain streamers and a place in gaming, decided it was smart to 360 no-scope his reputation by saying streamers should be paying publishers a revenue share to stream their games. This tweet obviously did not go over well. He was clowned, ratioed upon by just about everyone in gaming. Google also distanced themselves from these remarks. The truth is, this charging people to stream model failed years ago. It died with Nintendo, who even realized the benefit of people playing their games on stream. Of course, legally speaking, and this is scary, just streaming a game, and if a developer doesn't like you, they can take it down. We saw that with PewDiePie and developer Campo Santo when Pewds had his very bad gamer moment. We also saw that last year when 2K Games retaliated against a Borderlands YouTuber with 112 plus DMCA claims. But largely most companies see the value in content creators playing their games, as we've seen with, you could argue, streamers and YouTubers helping to create blockbuster cash cow games like Among Us, Fall Guys, Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto Online, No Man's Sky, and so on. The most ironic thing about this whole story is the hypocrisy, as content creator Jacksepticeye noted that the Google Stadia developer had fan art as his Twitter header with credit from the artist cropped out. By far, this story is the biggest and most damaging for a platform that has not earned gamers' trust at all, and faith in the future of this platform, of Stadia, continues to dwindle with dumb remarks like this. If you're concerned about the future of Bethesda, I guess there is some encouraging news for Starfield, as it's reportedly going to feature a completely new animation system. There's been lots of conversation over the last number of years about Bethesda's engine and how out of date it is. This is something that I've brought up constantly, especially with my criticisms with games like Fallout 76, Fallout 4, and even all the way back to Skyrim. The engine that they use, the Creation Engine, which is kind of just an updated version of the Gamebryo engine, which fueled a lot of games of the 90s, and games like Morrowind, Oblivion, and Fallout 3, it's just out of date here in 2020. That's why a lot of people have been wanting it to just be ditched completely, but Bethesda has insisted that they're just going to continue to build off of it and keep upgrading certain aspects of it. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Starfield ends up being, because it'll be telling for the future of this company, and for a game like The Elder Scrolls 6, which everyone everyone is looking forward to whenever it does arrive. So Bethesda is still the talk of this video game industry, as they had the big news of 2020 that Xbox was purchasing them, and there's still lots of questions regarding this acquisition, what it will mean for their games, whether they're going to be exclusives or not, and it's just keeps going back and forth. But recently, GamesIndustry.biz got to interview Todd Howard, the Bethesda game director and executive producer, and he gave his thoughts on the acquisition, the reaction that he's seen from the community, and he also talked a little bit about his opinion on exclusives and whether the Elder Scrolls 6 will be an exclusive to the Xbox family. And this is what he had to say. First, GamesIndustry.biz points out, in addition to the overall shock, external reactions ranged from Elder Scrolls fans committing to get an Xbox out of fear that PlayStation may no longer receive Bethesda games. That's a very real concern. To a campaign urging Sony to acquire Konami as some sort of counterattack. And that was a very real campaign. The day that Bethesda was announced to be being purchased by Xbox, this was trending all over Twitter, many demanding Sony to go out and purchase Konami, a huge purchase that I don't even know if it's possible. Now, as daft and perhaps unreasonable as these reactions might seem, it speaks to the magnitude of the deal, something Howard didn't fully appreciate being so in the weeds on actually arranging it. I grossly underestimated the impact in the larger gaming community. I was naively surprised at how big it landed and what it meant in the larger context of games, but I was happy with the feedback we saw. A lot of people saw it as a big positive thing, the same way we do, and I really do hope that it changes this company for the best, because the last number of years have just not been going too well with Bethesda. They were the darling of this industry, and now it seems like they're the industry villain, especially with everything that's happened with Fallout 76 over the last couple of years. But to the most striking part of this interview, this is where he gives his thoughts on exclusives. GamesIndustry.biz writes, despite the many entry points to the Xbox ecosystem, there are still concerns that all future Bethesda titles will be restricted to channels the Microsoft controls. Xbox boss Phil Spencer said at the time that Bethesda's games continuing to be multi-format will be judged on a case-by-case basis, and Howard reiterates the details of the deal are still being finalized. When it comes to such releases, he says, we have not gone through all of that, to be honest. We do view it and always have by ourselves on a case-by-case basis. We'll do that as part of Microsoft as well. They've been pretty open on other platforms and not just with Xbox. This is an outside perspective, but if you go back 10 years at Microsoft, you wouldn't expect them to have a full Office suite on an iPhone either. I can't really project where things will be except to say that we've done those sort of exercises ourselves as an independent company. If you look at every Elder Scrolls game, there has been some exclusivity on Xbox or with Microsoft. We partnered with every game. Morrowind was basically a console exclusive. Oblivion was a long-timed exclusive. Skyrim's DLC was exclusive for a long period of time. We'll decide what makes the best sense for our audience when the time comes, and I cannot really project today what that'll look like. And then he pretty much says, the GamesIndustry.biz writer, that this is ultimately very hard to imagine that the Elder Scrolls 6 will be restricted just to Microsoft. And Todd Howard would say that I would agree that it is hard to imagine. Howard smiles but offers no more on the matter. And of course, you're not going to be getting any clear answers until eventually Starfield or the Elder Scrolls 6 releases. I would say that it's very likely that you're going to see those games on the PlayStation 5. I just don't know if it's going to be like a timed exclusive ordeal where you have to wait a year for that. And this is just something that's not going to become clear for a while from now, as the deal is not 100% complete. It still has to go through the legal system, and Phil Spencer has emphasized that once he's been asked about this in recent interviews, saying that the deal's not done and he just legally cannot say anything about how they plan to manage all of this. There are also other factors that should be considered, like the Xbox Series X performance, how the console does. That'll probably influence Xbox's decision making with Bethesda's titles and whether or not to throw it on other consoles and other platforms. Like, I could see a Wolfenstein 3 going on the PlayStation 5 day one and the Elder Scrolls 6 maybe not. But anyway, as of this moment, the deal is still not finalized, and Xbox will have lots of strategies moving forward. The ball will be in their court. But right now, Bethesda actually has some other things to deal with, like a massive lawsuit which was just thrown in their face over some sketchy business dealings that have happened in the last couple of years. So the following report comes from PC Gamer. Bethesda intentionally sabotaged Rune 2 to protect the Elder Scrolls lawsuit update claims. This is a very interesting lawsuit because this involves Human Head Studios, which some of you might remember as the developer of Prey 2 until it wasn't. But this report from PC Gamer says, in December 2019, Rune 2 publisher Ragnarok Game sued original developer Human Head Studios, alleging that Human Head had attempted to destroy the game by very publicly abandoning it on launch day, and then refusing to turn over the source code and assets so another developer could take over the job. We could have transitioned to the game if they weren't able to participate anymore, we could have transitioned naturally. Here's the source code, we'll help you find somebody. Executive producer Matt Callender told me in a June 2020 interview, but they didn't do that. They usually did everything they could to prevent us from supporting the product. So here's the interesting history that you really have to know with Bethesda, maybe this entire video game industry. It's just like any other industry. There's all kinds of nasty business that goes on with these corporations. I guess the most public one is Vivendi trying to take Ubisoft. That was a big story of the last couple of years. And then we've also seen the influence over other companies like Activision destroying what Blizzard was. But Bethesda has also had some very naughty moments. Like in 2013, these allegations were made. Bethesda accused of sabotaging Prey 2, an attempt to buy out Human Head. And this is what the report from Game Watcher says. According to one source, after the tremendously successful E3 2011 outing of Prey 2, which I honestly loved, and I think a lot of people were extremely excited for that game, Bethesda promised Human Head a development extension of 6 months to 1 year, which would have served to allow the developer to populate the game world with missions and give the game an overall polish. The source claimed that Bethesda attempted then a power play, as it decided to play hardball and buy the studio. Bethesda denied further funding the project and started failing milestones. Finally, Human Head stopped development in November of 2011 to prevent Bethesda from buying it out. And that is the report, and actually it was from IGN, Mitch Dyer of IGN back in 2013. Now, Bethesda marketing VP Pete Hines did respond to this report indirectly by saying in September of 2016, "This is the dumbest argument I have ever heard," and he pretty much said that Prey 2's development was not sabotaged by them. Although, let's be honest, Bethesda has lied lots and lots over the years with lots of sketchy things that they've done, especially with reviews and company ordeals. They're not going to tell the truth. It's not like they're going to come out and say, yeah, we sabotaged this because we wanted to purchase this company. Just a somewhat amusing observation. An image of Prey 2 in the background of a Pete Hines photo was spotted by social media users who made some jokes in which Hines did not seem all that amused by them, essentially saying, get over Prey 2, but anyway, let's get back to this report now with everything that's going on with Rune 2. Now, the lawsuit has now been amended to include ZeniMax Media and Bethesda, which announced in November 2019, the day that Human Head went out of business, that it had hired the entire team and reassembled it as Roundhouse Studios. Very interesting. Human Head's initial Roundhouse announcement implied that the studio had reached out to Bethesda after the decision to close had been made, but the updated complaint says Bethesda was an active participant in the effort to torpedo Rune 2 and another game called Oblivion Song, and had begun conspiring with Human Head in late September 2019. The lawsuit now goes on. It alleges that Human Head secretly provided Bethesda with keys that permitted it to play a confidential pre-release version of Rune 2, and they claim that this was done because they were concerned, or Bethesda, I guess, was concerned that this could damage their hit franchise Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls. And this is a very big reach by the plaintiffs of this lawsuit. It just doesn't really make any sense. I don't think Bethesda has to worry about Rune maybe destroying the Elder Scrolls franchise, but hey, that's just my perspective on that. But anyway, the allegations continue. 2 weeks prior to the launch of Rune 2, ZeniMax secretly formed a new subsidiary, Roundhouse Studios, and used that company to purchase all of Human Head's equipment and take over its leases. That equipment contained plaintiffs' trade secrets, the source code and materials for Rune 2 and Oblivion Song. In that same time frame, in order to complete a de facto merger, ZeniMax arranged to have all employees dismissed from Human Head and hired by ZeniMax. ZeniMax then took control of Human Head's employees and assets on November 4th, after which it ordered them to halt development of Rune 2 and Oblivion Song, according to the complaint. It further alleges that ZeniMax took project lead Christopher Reinhardt, Rune 2's creative heart and soul, out of action on launch day by sending him on a 2-day business trip to Texas, and that Bethesda and ZeniMax were the actual authors of the press release announcing the closure of Human Head the day after Rune 2 came out. And yeah, I actually consider part of these allegations believable, but the main pieces that seems like they're trying to make the allegations about, that Bethesda was trying to sink Rune 2 because of the threat it posed to the Elder Scrolls series, I don't think that's believable at all. I don't think that the Elder Scrolls franchise was ever under threat. It doesn't really make any sense to me, but the lawsuit also indicates that Human Head was in buyout talks with other companies prior to its acquisition by ZeniMax, who wanted Ragnarok Games involved in the process and would have allowed it to continue working on Rune 2. ZeniMax was the only prospective acquisition partner that required secrecy and would not permit permit further development work on Rune 2 or Oblivion Song, and the lawsuit seeks compensation of no less than $100 million, plus restitution for development costs, punitive damages, attorney fees, and other penalties. And then Bethesda declined to comment on the matter. Like I said, Bethesda, like any of these corporations in this video game industry, can get very, very scummy. That's why I think a lot of people are hopeful that Xbox can turn this company around. But in all honesty, like I said before, there's definitely some parts of this lawsuit that just does not add up. Like the allegation that Rune 2 was going to destroy the Elder Scrolls, that's not going to hold up, because that just never was ever going to happen. But the fact that Bethesda was working behind the scenes with Human Head without telling the publisher, and then just immediately abandoned Rune 2 and then refused to give up the source code, yeah, that's definitely very sketchy. But let me know, what are your thoughts on this lawsuit? How do you think it's going to turn out? And it is a little funny to think about that Microsoft will have to deal with a $100 million lawsuit immediately once this deal gets finalized between Bethesda and Xbox. Just a little funny, I guess. At least to me. Moving along, just days ago, lots of us were shocked to hear the announcement by CD Projekt Red that after going gold, with only 20 days to go until launch, Cyberpunk 2077 was receiving yet another delay. And this, obviously, the reactions have been everywhere. I had a very detailed video on this the other day. Check it out if you have not already. But a lot of people are upset at CD Projekt Red, and it seems like the hype is just, it's gone now. Hopefully it does come back. I still think everybody's going to be excited and ecstatic if or when the game does release. Regardless, CD Projekt Red is taking some financial hits right now. The stock market can be very, let's just say, knee-jerk reaction, and when they see signs of trouble, they immediately jump, and that's what they've done with CD Projekt Red. As GamesIndustry.biz reports that CD Projekt Red stock fell 25% in 2 months amid Cyberpunk uncertainty. CD Projekt Red's share price has fallen by 25%, and as of recording this video, it's actually closer to 30%, since its peak at the end of August, shaving almost $2.5 billion from its market cap. Yesterday, however, its share price had fallen to Poland's currency of 331, the lowest point since April of 2020. At the time of writing, CD Projekt Red shares were trading at a slightly improved PLN 346, which is still 25% down on that August peak. Just as the rise in its share value coincided with success, both actual and potential, in the form of The Witcher's cross-media popularity and first foray into mobile AR gaming, the decline has been hand in hand with more negative news. The 2-month period between the end of August and today has largely been defined by reports of crunch and further delays to the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. Some analysts have said that CD Projekt Red stock is a little bit overvalued, as a lot of it is just on the success of Cyberpunk 2077 right now. A lot of people believe that hype will translate to massive sales, and right now with all of these delays, it scares people, and that scares lots of investors. And there's also further uncertainty coming from CD Projekt Red on the December 10th date. As PC Gamer reports, Vice President of Business Development at CDPR said later in their Q&A with their recent financial conference that there isn't a specific problem with current-gen consoles, just optimization to be handled. And if you were curious, that is the problem with Cyberpunk 2077. It seems to be there's maybe lots of bugs with the current-gen versions of the game. In a response to a separate question, however, he suggested that Cyberpunk 2077's issues might actually run a little deeper than that, saying the polish is needed to fix all the bugs and quality issues that we are still facing. Now, as for the new release date of December 10th, it's firm, if not quite rock hard. We feel maybe not comfortable, but confident in the new release date, Kaczynski said. And then another CDPR executive seemed seemingly not quite comfortable with fully committing to it. When asked if Cyberpunk 2077 would definitely be out on December 10th, he replied, "That's more or less what I'm saying, I guess yes." Now, if Cyberpunk 2077 were to experience another delay, I just can only imagine what the anger would be on the internet, just because I think this year has been so down for so many people that CDPR's Cyberpunk 2077 really is the only thing people are looking forward to, and also a lot of people have been, setting aside vacation time, and I can only imagine again if this were to happen. But I personally just don't see how it is possible for another delay, as I don't think CDPR can afford to piss off their investors again and their customers, especially being that Cyberpunk 2077 needs to be a huge success for them, and I don't know if they can really wait it out longer. Now, there is something that's interesting that should be mentioned, and it's Jason Schreier. He vetted a CD Projekt Red developer recently, and on a now deleted Reddit account, this CD Projekt Red developer alleged the following. They said, "A day patch 1 is most likely going to be quite massive. The game was rushed and the announcement of gold came as a surprise for most of the team. It is unlikely the game will be 100% done and polished, even including the day 1 patch. The game would easily need at least 4 to 5 more months of work, counting crunch. The technology behind the game is not bad. Actually, the rendering and engine lighting teams did a great job, and the visual quality is quite high. Although the Red engine is a bit mangled, the game is not terrible technically speaking, but it could have used more time to be properly shipped." And then the CD Projekt Red developer again said, "The studio is confident the game will be well received. Overall, Cyberpunk is coming up to be a great game. What's frustrating is that given a bit more time and better planning, could have come out as a masterpiece without anyone doing overtime." Now that's just one CD Projekt Red developer's opinion. That again, this was vetted by Jason Schreier on his Twitter account. He said that he actually spoke with this specific developer. So that's just another interesting take on Cyberpunk 2077, the state of the game. And with the game now, it's already entered certification. Discs are already being printed out, and the game is pretty much ready. It's just this day 0 update that CDPR is working so much on right now. And it does definitely seem like there is some concern with the current gen version of the game, which is why they have to give some additional time. And I don't believe that it's just like this minor little problem. If they think that this could damage the Metacritic score, there has to be some serious issues that they've found. But hey, that's just, again, my perspective on it. Either way, I do think that Cyberpunk 2077 will release on December 10th, although I can definitely understand anybody who feels very skeptical about that. To our next story, and this is something that's a very serious concern, and that is Halo Infinite. This game has just been a mess. The last couple of years, there's been numerous reports from so many sources saying that this game is just a gigantic mess behind the scenes. And with the delay of this game out of the year, I mean, this was the big Xbox Series X strategy this fall. Even on some of the packaging of the Xbox Series X now, Halo Infinite's right on there because that was the only plan that Microsoft had. That was the selling point for the Xbox Series X. That's why some people wonder if maybe Bethesda being purchased by Xbox was influenced by just the chaos that's going on with what's supposed to be one of their best studios, 343 Industries. But if I'm being honest, Halo Infinite looks more and more like the next BioWare Anthem or Mass Effect Andromeda giant dumpster fire. And I mean that as sadly because I am a huge fan of the Halo franchise. I've been wanting this franchise to get back, delivering great games. It just seems like it has not happened since Bungie left and went to go do Destiny, and 343 I've just never really felt attached to it. They've done some great things. The Master Chief Collection, I know a lot of people love that, but Halo 4, Halo 5 Guardians just were misses in my opinion. And right now, after all of the reports and what we've seen of actual gameplay, the concerns are not slowing down. Like 343 recently had to address growing concerns about Halo Infinite's new armor customization, in which the community manager at 343 said there will be all kinds of customization items that can be earned in-game and earned as special rewards. Will there be purchases? Sure. Is that the only way? Absolutely not. Oh boy, I really hate this live service age with microtransactions. Like, I get it, Halo 5 had microtransactions, but I feel companies like Sony and Microsoft could set an example with not having microtransactions in every single multiplayer game, but hey, that's just me. Regardless, Halo Infinite has more trouble than just that, because right now, Halo Infinite's director has stepped back after disappointing showcase. The following report comes from Polygon. Halo Infinite's director was removed from the project in August. Bloomberg reports shortly after an Xbox game showcase aired a disappointing gameplay demonstration that brought ridicule from fans on social media, but it did give us our god and savior, Craig. In a statement to Bloomberg, Chris Lee confirmed he had stepped back from Infinite and was looking at future opportunities. Microsoft in a statement said Lee was still a Microsoft employee, although he had stepped back from Halo Infinite right now. And he is the third senior development figure to leave the Xbox tentpole series in a little more than a year. In August 2019, creative director Tim Longo was reassigned and executive producer Mary Olson was put in charge of Infinite's campaign development. Lee, as the Halo Infinite studio head, was still responsible for Infinite's overall creative vision and production. Olson then left 343 Industries in October of 2019. In July, newly released footage of Halo Infinite looked visually dull and underwhelming, drawing jeers, memes, and insults on Twitter. 3 weeks later, Lee announced that Halo Infinite would be delayed until 2021. And if there is something that's, I guess, a little bit reassuring, Bloomberg said that Joe Staten, who rejoined Microsoft from original developer Bungie in 2014, was placed in charge of Halo Infinite's single-player campaign, while Pierre Hintz is now leading the multiplayer development. What Halo Infinite will end up looking like whenever it does release, probably holiday of 2021, I'm still holding out hope that 343 can deliver a decent Halo experience. But right now, the writing on the wall overall, from everything I've seen from this AAA gaming industry, it looks very much like it could be another Mass Effect Andromeda-like situation. When you have senior developers leaving mid-development, that is not a good thing. I see some trying to downplay what's been going on at 343 and all of the public reports and leaks. None of this is looking good, but hopefully, again, Halo Infinite can, I guess, turn things around, but right now, this is not good news. Now, speaking of not good news, and maybe something that actually maybe turns that frown upside down, Electronic Arts is facing more legal problems over their loot box gambling system. First, we go to this report from gamesindustry.biz about some stuff going on in Canada. A class action lawsuit was filed recently on September 30th by joint plaintiffs Mark Sutherland and Sean Moore. Sutherland is a British Columbia resident who purchased loot boxes in the Madden NFL series of games, while Moore hails from Ontario and spent money on the same monetization model in EA's NHL games. The pair asserts that the Criminal Code of Canada prohibits unlawful gaming, betting, lotteries, and games of chance. Since EA does not hold a gambling license in the region, it is accused of operating an unlicensed illegal gaming system through their loot boxes. The senior officers and directors of Electronic Arts were at all times fully aware of their unlawful nature of their enterprise and took active steps to carry it out. In the alternative, the senior officers and directors were reckless or willfully blind to the unlawful nature of their enterprise and took active steps to implement it. The lawsuit is seeking, among others, damages for Moore and Sutherland under the Competition Act in a declaration that EA has contravened the Business Practices and Consumer Protection Act. I just actually love the fact that Electronic Arts is now having to go all over the world with their lawyers, having to face so many different lawsuits over the loot box system, and that's why I'm very glad that the Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot box debacle of 2017 happened, because the ridicule is just not slowing down. As most of you remember, I believe it was just a couple of weeks or months ago, EA faced a giant lawsuit in California, and now they're facing another one in Canada. But what is even more bad news is that they're facing some further legal problems in the Netherlands, as a Dutch judge rules that Electronic Arts should be fined $500,000 every week until it removes FIFA loot boxes. The Netherlands Gaming Authority will be allowed to fine Electronic Arts $500,000 every week it sells loot boxes in FIFA Ultimate Team after the feature was deemed in violation of gambling rules. The independent body ruled in 2018 that FIFA's Ultimate Team Packs mechanic was in violation of its gambling act and suggested the weekly fine up to a maximum of $10 million, which was then challenged by EA in court. This is like the ultimate get screwed, EA, because their defense of this is just baseball cards, or it's like Kinder eggs, that's just not working in the court of law. And when you have all of these studies, there's so many over the last couple of years that have declared loot boxes as gambling, because I mean, it's just a virtual slot machine if we're being honest here, their defenses just do not work anymore. The evidence is clear. Now, a weekly $250,000 fine will be charged against both EA and its Swiss subsidiary, which is responsible for the sale of FIFA, for a total of $500,000 a week. According to nu.nl, the FIFA publisher had argued that the content of its FIFA Ultimate Team packs only had value within the game itself, as they could not be converted into money. I mean, that's regardless, because they're still using gambling mechanics. However, the judge dismissed EA's objections on Thursday and ordered that if the company wants to avoid the weekly fine, it would need to disable the loot boxes within 3 weeks. In a statement provided to VGC, EA said that they would appeal the decision. Players all over the world have enjoyed FIFA and the FIFA Ultimate Team mode for many years, and as such, we are disappointed by this decision and what it may mean for our Dutch community, which pretty much just means they're going to turn off loot boxes or turn off the Ultimate Team mode. We do not believe that our products and services violate gambling laws in any way, because if they did, they would lose lots and lots of money. We are appealing this decision, and we seek to avoid a situation impacting the ability of Dutch players to fully experience and enjoy FIFA Ultimate Team. Electronic Arts is deeply committed to positive play. That's laughable. We seek to bring choice, fairness, value, and fun to all our players in all of our games. And lie, but that's what Electronic Arts is known. That's what they do. This is all a bunch of, it's a nice charade. They're trying to throw it on. We're thinking about the players when we implement greedy little loot boxes. But if I had to give my overall opinion on everything that's happening with Electronic Arts, with their trouble with the legal systems all across the world, I think that I like that lots more than just gamers yelling at Electronic Arts. I love that EA has to go courtroom to courtroom having to battle over loot boxes and trying to give stupid, idiotic responses and defenses over something that is clearly gambling mechanics. Ultimately, though, one does have to wonder if EA's investors and shareholders are becoming point concerned by the legal threats that just continue to mount over the loot box mechanic, which has made EA billions upon billions of dollars and is really the reason why they are at the top of this video game industry. And as of recording this video right now, EA's stock over the last couple of months is down almost 20%, and they have lost about $8 billion in market cap. Now to our last news subject of the day, and this is in regards to what's going on with Marvel's Avengers. And if I had to say what's the most disappointing release of 2020, I would say Marvel's Avengers is definitely up there. This is a game that in 2017 everybody was excited by, especially the developer, Crystal Dynamics. Everybody was expecting that we're going to get something truly remarkable, something that was going to be memorable, a great single-player story experience, but in all honesty, this game just ended up being very meh. It was just whatever. If you are looking for my full perspective on the game, I have a 53-minute video, The People vs. Marvel's Avengers, up on the channel, in which we go over the development history of Marvel's Avengers, and also it includes my review of the game, in which I go a lot more detailed and go over the problems that I had with the game. But it does seem like Marvel's Avengers has been a giant sales success for Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics. Lots of people bought copies of the game, but it doesn't look like that has translated to people sticking around, because it's just not a very good live service. It has a horrible endgame, and it features lots of the same problems that we saw with BioWare's Anthem. I said this on Twitter a number of days ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, but it just seems like nobody in this AAA gaming industry ever learns from their mistakes. They just keep on doing them over and over again. The definition of insanity, as Voss would say. But as we learned recently, Marvel's Avengers next-gen versions were delayed into 2021, and then, making the same mistake that BioWare made with Anthem, Crystal Dynamics has pushed back the arrival of Hawkeye and apologized for the turbulent game launch. Again, one of the most important things with any of these live services, these big AAA live services, is that you have to get the post-launch right. And it just seems like they're following the same path that Anthem did, which was delaying the roadmap until everybody just stopped giving a crap. And right now, to make matters worse, people have just abandoned this game. If you actually check Steam charts right now, the average peak, or right now the amount of people actually playing it, is around 1,000. And there's already tons of matchmaking issues against a problem that BioWare's Anthem had, and I really don't know if there is a future for this. This is supposed to be another live service that goes on for years, and I just don't know if people will care enough to stick around for this experience, because there is some good to Marvel's Avengers, like Anthem, but there's also just a lot of problems. Most notably though, loot, which is supposed to be a piece of content that is keeping players around after the endgame, getting cool items and making your characters look great. Well, no, it's just completely pointless in the game, as loot does not influence your look or appearance at all, which is a major problem that Anthem made, that Marvel's Avengers made as well, and that's going to have to be fixed if there is a future for this game at all. It's just so many mistakes that with all these past live services, and they just keep on being made over and over again. It's just honestly annoying at this point, because this AAA gaming industry just keeps on thinking that they can get by with their nonsense, and that's just not going to happen, unfortunately. Anyway, Marvel's Avengers, we'll see if it has a future, but right now, delaying immediate post-launch content to 2021 is, again, not a good look, and I think it spells trouble, especially since on Steam, they're already averaging less than 1,000 players only 2 months after the game released. Feels like this game came out months ago, but nope. Anyway, what do you make of everything going on in this AAA games industry right now? We are in the big holiday rush, lots of things going on. We're just days away from the next generation of consoles launching. Are you looking forward to the PlayStation 5? What games are you planning on getting? Let me know down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.